So, you mentioned earlier the asylum seekers and some issue with trying to find jobs. The move of the tent city from the Orchard Beach parking lot to Randall's Island is no solution.
I agree.
We have a crisis at our southern border of foreign nationals by the millions pouring in illegally, flooding our country. You are a member of Congress. You write our nation's immigration laws. These people who are so-called seeking asylum were waiting in Mexico while their claim was being reviewed, because 95 out of 100 of them are found to be not being politically persecuted in their home nation. They're simply economic migrants, which even the UN does not acknowledge as a legitimate reason for a foreign national to enter another country illegally. What are you going to do with our immigration laws to secure this southern border? And by the way, I look at the map of District 14, where I worked for many years in the fire department. We used to go to heroin overdoses. Tragic. It's 10 times that now with the fentanyl. We lose the Vietnam's war worth of young American lives. Every 6 months, 50,000 Americans in the nation overdose on this communist Chinese synthetic heroin, chemical weapon poison known as fentanyl. What are you going to do about that?
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
No, thank you. Thank you for the question. And thank you, for submitting the question and sharing it with me, recall. I appreciate that. And I know a lot of our neighbors do as well. So I think there were maybe two questions here. I'll start with your latter one about fentanyl and opioids. This is very clearly something that has been an issue, and the sources of those have been multiple, right? But this is also why we have very critical investments in scanning technology in our ports, because when we look at where a lot of these things are coming in, a lot of them are coming in our ports, and a lot of the source of this can be large transit, large capacity vehicles. So we want to target the issue and how it's coming in. We need to be very precise about where that is happening. And that's where we have made investments. We have to continue to make investments in making sure that we're scanning and are assessing our ports responsibly. When it comes to people, the way that those substances enter are often different points of entry than where people enter. It is legal to claim asylum at the United States border. It is legal. It is legal. It is legal. It is legal to claim asylum. Now, what is very important is that I also want us to be very real about the macroeconomic position that we are in. Let's be very real about this. We have other developed countries like Japan, South Korea, etc. And they have experienced profound economic drawbacks and a demographic crisis, because, including stalled growth, because they do not have a workforce large enough to sustain their elders. And the United States, one of the only reasons that we have been able to have a different fate than that is because we are a country that welcomes immigrants. Because we do not have the capacity right now to pay and continue to pay and fund for Medicare and Social Security and continued economic growth and creating more jobs without immigrants. There's no way to make that math work. And so when we talk about the question of undocumented people, my priority is by opening legal pathways to citizenship and making sure that they are documented. Because this idea of a line and waiting in line, that's not how our immigration system works. And a lot of times that line is 10, 20, 30 years, when, as many people have seen, we have profound labor shortages, which can then amount to supply chain issues. And really, the investments that we make as a country, we need to have people and a workforce that can fill them. And if we close, quote unquote, close this border, which there's no, I mean, this idea of an open border or closed border is like, this is like a Fox News thing. Like, the border is a very different construct than how it's presented. And so what's really important to know is that we need our immigrant neighbors. We need them just as much as they need us. And I want to make that very clear from a macroeconomic perspective. Because when we have parents or when we ourselves are aging and we need people who are our home health care workers, who are our school aides, who are our crosswalkers, without immigrants, they don't exist. Without immigrants, we age alone. Without immigrants, we have no care. Without immigrants, we do not have the support that we need. Because this is New York City. This is who we have always been. Look around this room. Every single one of us comes from somewhere. And we can't just close our eyes and pretend that people who are coming here for new opportunities are any different than the Italian Americans or Irish Americans that came here in 1910 and 1920. I'm not going to keep you. That these are different things, and we need to understand that we are so much more similar than other people would have us believe. Without immigrants, our economy diminishes, if not collapses. And you would be surprised because, you know, and here's where I'm willing to criticize my own team, okay? Because y'all know I'm equal opportunity about that. You want to know one thing about doing things the proper way and whatnot? The Biden administration right now is so far below their refugee and asylee acceptances. We're supposed to be at over 100,000 this year alone. We're under 60. And when we talk about what's happening with Ukraine and Ukrainian refugees given asylum, we have not treated our Afghani brothers and sisters in the same way. We have not treated our South American brothers and sisters in the same way. And the United States has contributed historically to regime change in Latin America, which has listed and been part of the multi-decade contributing factors as to why people are at our southern border right now. So we have a lot of work to do, and I agree, don't want to have these crises, but we need to also assume responsibilities for our contributions to them, and we also need to understand that this idea that there's a line and doing things the proper way, if we don't want people here undocumented, or some people say illegally, then we should document them. That's it.
The issue of immigration with foreign nationals who are going into our country illegally and being housed in tent cities on our expense. When we have an immigration process, which I embrace immigration, my own heritage at some point includes immigrant ancestors who came for asylum legally. I have the documentation for that. They didn't flood in from God knows where. We don't know who these people are. We don't know where they're from. This is going to be 2,000 single males, either at Orchard Beach or Randall's Island. This is insanity. This is not, excuse me.
No, of course. Go ahead, please.
You make our immigration laws. You're a member of Congress. Our immigration laws absolutely allow for someone to show up at our border requesting political asylum. That doesn't mean they did immediate entry while that request is being processed. Them waiting in Mexico till we process that and determine that 95 out of 100 of them are merely economic migrants does not qualify them for automatic entry into our country. Illegally. Period. This open border, when Biden got in day one, he stopped the wall, he opened the border, and he closed the pipeline. That's why gasoline is high, that's why you have inflation. It's the economy.
No, so I thank you, and I actually appreciate. Yeah, no, this is healthy. I really appreciate this. This is healthy because this is how we can talk out different positions.
This is how you're going to realize you're all gone on the 8th. It's going to be a red wave.
Okay, well, sir.
And my party loses for 40 years with this.
But let's say, sir.
You're going to get crushed.
Yes, and let's say,
You're going to
sir.
be destroyed on the issues I bring up because the issues I bring up are true.
No, sir. I'm not going to dismiss your concerns. And like I said, I appreciate this exchange that we're having right now because it's not just yelling at each other, you know? It get a little heated, but we're not yelling at each other right now. We're not yelling past each other, so I appreciate that. There's a couple differences, and just to points of consideration. When your family came on Ellis Island, the way to come here legally was to jump off of a boat and write your name on a piece of paper in a book.
What you just said, you just made your own.
It's not, it's historic.
The process was at that time. Why are you saying?
No, I appreciate it. And listen, you're making the point, he's making the point that, hey, at that time, that was legal. I'm making that point too. At that time, that point was legal. The barriers, all of that, those barriers started, our modern immigration system started when Chinese Americans attempted to then start coming into the United States. When the waves of migrants after waves of migrants from Western Europe, those major waves happened, when we started seeing waves of people coming from different parts of the world, from Asia, from Latin America, from Africa, that's when all of a sudden we put in all these loopholes saying you can't come, this, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. And so what I just want to say is we need to consider that, because the way to actually come here legally in the United States is nearly impossible.
That's up to you to legislate immigration law changes. That's the
Yes,
and
and that is the work that I do. That is the work that I do, which is why I'm at least trying to get people work authorizations in the present moment.
We have a few more questions.
I'm so sorry, sir. Just have one more. But I do appreciate that, and listen, again, I can't engage in
this is so different than the one that's needed BS. How long ago all this one there hugging everybody coming off those buses? They were nowhere to be seen. And the next day they're all gone.
I'm sorry, sir. We have to move on to the next question.
That's great. The mayor of New York City, we're going to stay in an emergency.
Yeah.
We're going to have layoffs of police officers, firefighters. The city's going down.